This was a long time in the making. Cheryl invited me, I don't know, when was it, Cheryl? January, February, March, sometime a long time ago. And so we're both so excited that this is happening today. So I'm happy to be here with you. Hope for the journey. One morning, I woke up feeling such dread and depression over 3 people dear to me who were experiencing suffering, pain, and confusion. One was my sister Cheryl, who has lung cancer metastasized to her bones. She was having severe pain, but also had become very confused, mixing up the hours of the day, thinking morning was night, which caused her to mistakenly take her medication at the wrong time, which has a lot of complications. The next is a dear friend, Sarah, who I had just learned was in the hospital, having fallen and broken her leg near her hip. She's 77 years old, and this type of break at this age can often be the beginning of a downward spiral in health. Lastly, my husband was experiencing a health issue of concern. Could it be cancer, I feared. A few hours into the day, I got word that my sister was thinking more clearly, and a scan had revealed that cancer had not spread to her brain. I began to relax a little. She still had a very serious case of cancer, but the picture looked a little bit better at the moment. I could breathe easier. There was hope. Another couple hours passed that day, and I got to speak to my friend Sarah. She sounded clear and bright and cheery like her usual self. Maybe this fall would not be her undoing. Maybe she will rise from this accident, and we will still be able to take walks together and talk together as we always had. I breathed a little easier. There was hope. Finally, late that day, around supper time, my husband got good news, a diagnosis that was not nearly as scary as cancer, and one that would be fairly manageable. Our life would not be negatively impacted. This was something we could handle without altering our travel plans or our life plans. I felt the heaviness and dread lift completely. There was hope. In each of these situations, nothing changed but hope. And with hope, everything changed. There was no fundamental change that caused me to feel better, that caused the dread to lift. They each still had physical symptoms and challenges to deal with: cancer, a broken leg, a health condition that we'd have to wait to clear up. But with the various information indicating each thing was being handled appropriately and being well cared for, I could feel myself relax and be able to breathe more deeply. I could feel myself return to my more normal state of equilibrium, a balance and reasonable level of joy mixed with concern. Fear and grief took a back seat, never completely gone, but no longer controlling my thoughts and my emotions. There was hope. Emily Dickinson once wrote, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all." I've both loved and wondered about that quote for many years. It brings up beautiful feathery imagery for me, something that moves about lightly, ethereal, maybe a little romantic, light pink or purple feathers that lightly brush my skin, my face, a soft presence in my chest, surrounding my heart, the seat of the soul. But there are still questions. Dickinson is obviously comparing hope to a bird, But what does it mean for hope to be a thing with feathers? How does hope sing a tune without words? And what does it mean for it to perch in the soul? Here's the whole poem. Maybe it will provide some clues. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Well, okay then. We have a bird-like thing that rests in the soul, whistles a happy tune forever and ever, a tune that is most welcome during the height of a storm. Little can harm this bird that protects the being from calamity, and its presence can be felt everywhere from cold, harsh Arctic climes to crazy, wild seas. And it doesn't ask a thing of us to provide all this protection. Hope. Without words, it's so non-specific that the tune could speak to each person's needs, so it is always present. A tune of support for all times, for eternity. I like that. I find that comforting. This is God for me, a presence that is so non-specific it can be all things in all times, a comfort when I'm sad, a cheerful voice sharing my joys, a cheerleader when I need encouragement, and a voice of praise for my successes. A tune without words within which I live and move and experience my being. A tune that is eternal and infinite and everlasting. Something I can always count on no matter what the circumstances. I often pray a prayer for people who have suffered a crushing blow in their life. It quotes a phrase from the Bible that goes like this: I pray that you are able to feel the peace that passes all understanding. In this prayer, I'm asking for the person to experience a peace that doesn't make any sense given a shocking situation or sudden overwhelming losses. Having one's home blown away in a tornado and losing all possessions, the sudden unexpected death of a loved one, the shock of being told you have a terminal illness, blows to the psyche that come out of the blue. Experiencing peace in times like these is quite unexpected. In fact, when we run into someone who has suffered such a loss and we find them cheery and seemingly unaffected emotionally, I don't know about you, but I find that pretty weird. I find it pretty strange. And I wonder how they can possibly be so calm. It is more natural for us to be devastated when our whole world is turned upside down. One of Larry's cousins lost their home, all possessions, their pets, and everything in the Santa Rosa fire in California a few years ago. They were out east visiting in Massachusetts shortly afterwards, and they were like that. They were calm. They were so calm and so accepting of this entire loss in their life. I just wondered, how could this be? They said, well, you know, we've been working on downsizing. Now we don't have to worry about it. Of course, they had good insurance on all of it, but that's a whole separate issue. Insurance can never compensate for those personal items, the pictures, the special collections, and the pets. Oh, the pets. So no matter what, they had just cause to be depressed, angry, frightened, confused, but they weren't any of those things. They were very stable and calm. This is the peace that passes all understanding. And I believe that peace is found in the feathered thing that perches in the soul and sings the song without the tune, without the words, and never stops at all. They were able to be grateful for each other, grateful that they were able to escape the fires themselves. As they fled in their car, the flames were actually licking against their doors and the ashes falling on the rooftop of their car. Grateful that they were able to get to a place to find shelter and eventually moved in with a family temporarily. They were able to reflect on their past when they had built this house and remembered that what they had once done, they could do again. Maybe in a different way, but they knew they could do it again. In other words, they were able to find hope in this situation. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "I think God is on earth inside every living being. What we call the divine is nothing other than the energy of awakening, of peace, of understanding, and of love, which is to be found not only in every human being, but in every species on earth." This is hope to me. That no matter where I am or who I am with or what the circumstances are, God, or whatever you call the divine, is there also. The more practiced we are at turning to the divine, tuning into the messages, the more easily we're able to access that level of assurance, blessed assurance. This is a crazy world we live in. It's fast-paced, full of terror, violence, upheaval, shocking events happening daily if you look for it. Finding hope amidst this can be a real challenge at times, but it is doable. Success at finding it can be linked to how easily you are able to identify the tune without the words that is singing in your soul always. Learning how to identify that tune can take practice, like a regular meditation practice, or yoga, or Tai Chi, Qigong, walking a labyrinth. I got one right in town here. Any number of spiritual development practices that over time helps you to identify the difference between feeling anxious and feeling at peace. With regular practice, the soul recognizes how to access that peace. It recognizes which door to open to find the light, the calm, the peace beyond understanding. It's almost Pavlovian. You remember that experiment way back when? The experiment with feeding dogs. Each time the dog was fed, they rang a bell. And eventually, anytime they rang the bell, the dog salivated, whether it had food in front of it or not. Likewise, if you sit to meditate in the same place at the same time each day, with the same surroundings, a special cushion, a scarf, a candle, whatever, this has a training effect on your inner being. After doing this in the same way, any of the circumstances can trigger the meditation response, the sense of calm and peace, or a sense of general well-being that you feel following meditation. The space that is created in the being via meditation is where hope lives. Hope lives in that space of calm and peace that comes with practice. In other words, if you regularly sit to meditate at 3 p.m. each day, when that time is approaching, you will automatically begin to feel your body preparing for its meditative break. Or if you always have a certain talisman with you while you meditate, just carrying that talisman around can remind your deep inner being of how to reach the sense of peace you get with meditation. Hope grows out of this sense of peace or groundedness. This is the hope that sings in your soul. It's always there for you. It is always present. And although it doesn't ask you to do anything to find it, we are able to train ourselves to identify and access it through regular practice. May we each feel the peace that passes all understanding and be able to access it in all ways and at all times. May it be so. Amen.